Hey, welcome. If you arrived here, you are here for the Be On Air Forum, and we're so happy to have you join us. We have a full list of guests tonight, and we're going to get to them in just a minute. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce you to me. If I haven't met you yet, my name is Linda Lejeski, and I am the National Employer Relations Representative of the Be On Air Network, which is 7 media schools located across Ohio. We're in Illinois, Denver, as well as Miami. We are in our 4th year of our Be On Air Forums. This is a bi-monthly event where we have industry pros come to meet with our students, our alumni, and our extended community so that you have a chance to meet the pros, ask them questions, and grow in the careers that you're looking to develop. We're so happy that you joined us, and we ask you as you're going through this evening's hour, if you have any questions for our guests, our podcast guests, to use the chat option that's located to the right of the screen, and we'll get to those in the last 15 minutes of tonight's event. Also, if you would like, as I mentioned before, you can visit the Be On Air YouTube channel and listen to any of our past episodes, meet some industry pros, and build your network. There's so much great information there. And if you're interested in learning more about our schools, put a little note in the chat, and as we move through the hour, I'll get your information and reach out to you as quick as tomorrow so that you can learn more about us and what it is that we do. Well, we are very excited to be here tonight because we've got an all-star panel that's going to talk to you about taking your podcast to the next level. For all of you that are here, you're in some form of thought about your podcast, whether you're just putting your plan together, maybe you've just started, maybe you've been on air for a while and you're looking for additional tips. Remember that all of our guests that are with us today, we're where you are now in your journey for podcasting, and they're very excited to join us and to be able to offer you insight as to how to grow your podcast and how to really extend yourself and your content so that you can attract a bigger audience. We've got a great lineup, as I said, and Tony's going to move into introducing them a little further. But just to refresh your memory, who is here with us tonight? I see Chris Gully, the birthday boy, has joined us. We're so excited to have Chris. He is a graduate of Ohio Media School in Cleveland. His podcast is Blerd's Eyeview. And I have to say, I have wonderful memories of when you first started your podcast, and look at where you are today. It's really my pleasure to be able to see you here. Also, we have Danny Perez. I don't see Danny yet. His face is going to pop up in a minute. I think he's still on the road. But Danny is one of our instructors at Miami Media School. He's the host of Coffee and Cabernet podcast. He's a member of our branding team, and we're really happy that you'll be joining us tonight. Marcus Donald is going to be joining us. He is the CEO of TDME Sports Podcast. He combines sports talk and lively conversation in a podcast that he started as I first met him, also in the last maybe 5-6 years, and has developed his podcast to a nice level. We have Kimberly Redmond. Kim is from the Chicago market. She is also an alumni of ours, and Kim is the host of When I First Heard podcast. She'll be talking a little bit more about that. I feel like Romper Room, if anybody knows who Romper Room is, we have wonderful Holly Wood as an instructor at Colorado Media School, and she's the host of Bad Holly's Playbook. And yes, Hollywood is her real name, and she lives by her legend. She's just an amazing brander, and she's going to share a lot of content information with you. And our moderator is the wonderful, illustrious Tony Lopez out of Illinois Media School. Tony is the education coordinator at Illinois Media School, the downtown campus. He's an alumni. He's a podcaster, a co-host of the Parley, branding guru as well. And I just know you're going to have a wonderful hour with our guests. And Tony, that is your cue. I'm going to turn this over to you, see who else might be down below, and get everybody up on top with you so that you can get started. So remember, pick up your tips and move ahead and have a wonderful hour with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. As always, we thank you for putting these together every 2 weeks for our students and potential people that want to get involved in media in general. So we always appreciate everything you do, Linda. And of course, for your illustrious introductions, as always.
Thank you.
Welcome into the forum, the Be On Air forum, guys, here on the Be On Air network. I want to thank everyone for joining in, students who are in, and even visitors who may have tapped in from a visit or from a link that you received. We want to take advantage of this full hour for you guys, like that you can learn, maybe potentially get some inspiration, and also be able to interact with us as we continue through the forum. In every forum, we do give a 15-minute spot for questions and answers from our guests here on the forum. And so, in the final 15 minutes of this forum, we will give the floor to you guys, the viewers who are there, to ask questions, and we will respond to them when we get to that section of the forum. But of course, we are here now, and today's forum is all about podcasting. We got podcasters on the forum. I'm excited to talk to them because I'm one of them, and this is what we do. And so, I'm very, very excited. Kim is in the building. Danny Doe as well. We did have Chris as well. He tapped out here real quick, so hopefully we'll get him back. And of course, our lovely Holly in the building. She is an amazing coordinator for our social media pages and does a great job with that, as well as a woman of many talents. So great job on everything you do, Holly. Well, welcome in, guys. Welcome in. We want to get started here, obviously, with the forum. And the beginning part of this forum really is going to be about, first of all, how is it that you get started, right? I mean, podcasting is a thing where it's evolved in a way. It was there in the past, but never really utilized to the magnitude that it is now. And we can blame COVID for part of the reason why podcasting has become so big. So I want to go to Kim first. Kim, how did you get started with podcasting? You graduated a long time ago from Illinois Media School, and podcasting really wasn't that big a deal back then, but now it is. How did you get started?
So I started with my cousin, and I couldn't land after I graduated from Illinois Media School. I couldn't land a position in media. So I was like, you know what? Let me start my own blog. So we started a blog called Cabernet University, and we covered different events in Chicago, and we did the BT Awards, the BMI Awards. We did different red carpets. And we actually started a podcast on SoundCloud in 2014. And from there, everything started. And I started my podcast when I first heard with Kim A on Spotify. I started it in 2021 because I loved music. And I was like, you know what? Let me start. I had the idea for like years. I sat on it, I thought about it, and I just decided to pursue it. And yeah, I'm here now.
That's awesome. I mean, and as many people are aware, finding that first gig in the industry is always difficult, right? In some cases, because of the amount of people that are applying and in many facets. But do you feel like podcasting is definitely an avenue where people can grow from to potentially even get their first job?
I think so. I feel like social media, period, like putting yourself out there, recording yourself, even if you don't think anybody would like listen or view your page, your videos, just keep putting out the content. So I think podcasting is definitely a great way to start because you're building your audience as you go along. So yeah.
Holly, what about you? How did you get your start in podcasting? What really sparked that for you to create that type of content?
It was an assignment back when I was in school, in media school for broadcasting. And my dad at the time was starting to forget a lot of things and was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And he's one of the funniest people that I know. And it was kind of my way of archiving and making sure those stories were around for years after me. So it took off, and it was something I didn't expect to fall in love with, but totally hooked. And I kind of came into things when the video element was starting to really submerge.
That's nice. Yeah, definitely. You know, the podcasting and the industry has evolved with being able to present the content in a certain way. So I definitely can relate to that. Danny, in Miami, where the heat is, we're so jealous of you. And by the way, as a Chicago person, I really hope that we seal the deal on Wednesday versus y'all. But that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah, that it is. That it is. That it is.
How'd you get started in podcasting, Danny?
All right. Well, first and foremost, I just want to give a big shout out to this whole forum thing, and knowing that it's in its 4th year and being a part of this cool cast of characters right now. I'm very humbled. I want to say that my podcast probably is the infant of the group, and it's a funny thing. I have a funny story behind it. But I've been in broadcasting for a little close to 10 years now, and while it's been on the radio side of things, I had never really jumped into podcasting, but teaching it, knowing about it, it just started to kind of make sense for me to eventually launch one. And you get to the point where, for those of you that are, whether you've been instructors or whether you've been a student, and you get to work alongside all these talented people, and the network of that you start to like amass. I got to a point where it was like, all right, I'm done with hearing instructors and students telling me, where's the podcast? Where's the podcast? Why aren't you doing one? You should be doing one. And I had this idea to put together two of the things that I think fuel me the most, which is wine and coffee. And yeah, that idea turned into a product late last quarter in 2024. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the journey right now, because I think it's putting together the two facets of my career, which has been broadcasting, and there's a big part of podcasting that involves marketing and promotion. So, and that's the other facet of what I've been engaged with, and where my focus has been. So it's been great to put those two things together for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's absolutely awesome, Danny. You know, Chris is back in the building. Chris, welcome in.
What's going on?
We were doing introductions, but our first question on the panel was, how did you get started in podcasting? So I'm going to kick it to you.
I got started. I've always loved nerd culture. Let's start there. I went to Ohio Media School and took it up because I figured, what better way, because COVID helped, because it happened during COVID, our particular block. And as much as I knew about nerd culture and entertainment, that I like talking about these things and talking about new releases and everything like that, that I said, I got to put it to use. And that was what made me push forward, was the shutdown. I started out extremely raw. Barely wrote questions. And even now, I barely write questions. Every guest that I have on, I have particular things set up in mind, but yeah, COVID got me, kind of pushed me into the pool and just said, just do it. And in order for it to get done, that's how I did it. I just did it.
Yeah, we had mentioned how COVID was really the biggest, was the spark, right? Podcasting did exist before, but not at this magnitude. And now we're seeing everyone have a podcast. So there's definitely a way to do it. And I'm sure we've all gone through the motions of what works and what doesn't work. But with that said, Kim, I'm going to go to you. You know, what was your challenge in the first 3 months of podcasting?
I would say the production of it all. And I say production because I started my first podcast in 2014, and it was on SoundCloud. We would just record and upload it to SoundCloud. And then I wanted to find like a better avenue to like add production and music beds and things like that. So I was like, okay, let me switch over to GarageBand. And I feel like GarageBand for me was difficult to learn. And that was very difficult. Like I'm just now starting to get very comfortable with it. And I love editing, but just learning a new software was kind of like complicated, coming from something so common where I just upload and keep it going. But now I had to sit down and learn how to edit and add. And, it was different for me. So I would say using GarageBand.
Holly, what about you? What was your biggest challenge the first 3 months of podcasting?
Consistency for me. You know, life happens, and you know, you plan on a day to film, and you plan on people to show up, and it's always it's a dice roll until you have that, that lucky bunch that, everybody follows through. So for me, that was years of a build.
Yeah, no, I can see that happening. With that transition too. Danny, what about you, man? What are the challenges you faced in the first 3 months of doing your podcast?
Actually, I want to say I concur with both of the things that were just said. I think it's consistency on my part based from production. I have this grasp on all things audio and all things digital and all things branding when it comes to video editing. It's a foreign language for me, so I've had to work with others to make this happen, and it's been quite a challenge because there's been a lot of hiccups along the way, I should say, and that right now is what's really making it hard to be as consistent as I would like to be.
Yeah, Chris, final.
Biggest challenges was it wasn't consistency. Production is something I kind of learned along the way. It was more connectivity as far as like internet. It would touch and go. Audio was a big thing, just getting the right audio, the right sound, the right microphone. People will say, "Oh, you get this microphone, it sounds better." Sometimes the best and most expensive isn't the best, and you're out of money. So it was more or less just the technical side of things that became the biggest issue for me.
Yeah. No, it's great, and I'm actually happy you mentioned that, because my transition was going to be about the day-to-day works of podcasting itself. And so, I'll kick it back to you, Chris. What do you need, right? What got you started? What software, what equipment got you immediate start?
I started on Zoom. I started as far as programs. I used Adobe Audition and Adobe Premiere. That's how I started out. Those three, and then I thank God I have a lot of people who are really cool. A cousin of mine, he's in music, so he got me my first intro. So I was using that at first. Just those major things, which were the programs which I was able to use at OMS, and yeah, that was about it. There was a moment where I had a pair of headphones, and they broke. And I was just like, there's literally 2 days before I have a show, and I have to go out and find some headphones. So for 2 days, and I finally just hit up the Guitar Center that was in our area, and I said, I need a pair of earphones. I need a pair of earphones, and I need them now. So it was just getting certain programs. I was thankful enough to have past instructors. They weren't even my instructor. Well, no, 2 of them were my instructors, but I was able to have past instructors that I was introduced to at my time there that were able to give me tips on what I could use and what I can find out. And they said, get this, start out, you'll be fine.
Very nice, very nice. Danny, I'm gonna go to you on this one. How long does it take for you to produce an episode per se, from start to finish? What does that look like for you?
Ooh. I'd like to talk to you a little bit more on, or at least start off with, I think, the 5 major things that it takes to get an episode published and out. And it starts with a brainstorm. You gotta have a solid idea of what it is that you're going to be talking about, or what it is you're going to be creating. I like when I see people just going off and create, but I have heard just a lot of folks talk about the advantages of being able to really structure and prepare for something. So I think brainstorm is one that sometimes doesn't get enough credit as needed. Mm-hmm. Recording, editing, publishing, and promotion. These are, to me, these are the 5, there is no other way. And you can't have one without the other. So to start something as like a brainstorm to having it being promoted could take me anywhere between 2 to 6 weeks, depending on those hiccups that we talked about a second ago. But it's quite interesting once you start to like develop these things and then you roll along, and then you're working with your editors to say, okay, look, now we're in this phase, and then to finally get to publish. So it's definitely something I wouldn't be able to pinpoint as of yet, but those are the big 5 for me right now in terms of putting out an episode.
Yeah, and the preparation is huge. You got to have, obviously, first thing you have to have is what's your podcast about, and then you have to dive into the intricacies of it and how you're going to section off different episodes. And whether you're general or it's one specific, genre, you have to be able to prepare it. And you're right, Danny. It's going to take some time to prepare an episode. You just don't go on there and do one and hope for the best. So that's good stuff right there, Danny. Holly, I'm gonna kick it to you here. What it involves. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. I was hearing myself. Holly, with you, with all that preparation, and all that content creation, a lot of podcasters, and actually, I think maybe you can get a good number. About 90 to 95% of them have guests, right? And so guests are very important for a podcast. How do you get guests? What's your process in getting guests, and how do you make them feel comfortable once they're on the pod?
Well, one, it's a lot of ask. There was a guy that we tried to have on. I like to produce a lot of podcasts, and I have a gal that's a graduate that has a really good podcast, and hers is about really grief and emerging out of grief. And we've been pinpointing certain people that are really like big, huge motivators, and really an ask. And we reach out to them on all socials, which I kind of feel like it's a little overboard, or I go overboard until I get a yes. But it's worked. It's worked. Either they're flattered, or depending on their popularity, we get lost amongst all the other messages. So really persistence and just kind of keeping up. And that is my particular job when it comes to producing this podcast, is coming up with the guests that I think people will want to watch, and definitely hit that entertainment button. For me, that's a big deal.
And Holly, real quick, another question for you. Those are all very important. When you're doing this, do you also see yourself laying out at the same time, running time for a podcast, or do podcasts end up being longer than other episodes? How do you determine that?
Our intro and outro are pretty set. Sometimes the host will pull out something in a guest that you don't expect, that we would like to take and then tease at the beginning of the podcast. So there's a lot of stuff like that that'll pop up that's unexpected. But the one thing that really caught me when you were chatting with kind of how you start a podcast, I used to do a lot of podcasts just for my fulfillment, and kind of felt like maybe they're going to watch it. But what we started doing is really kind of using our audience as tests to see what they were curious about. What podcast could we facilitate that people are going to engage with, like putting a poll out on social media. And then when somebody engages with that poll or answers, it's like, oh my God, whoa, we got something here. So there's a lot of testing and a lot of kind of really seeing who is in your audience and what they're curious about. I'm trying to kind of shy away from just doing a podcast that I want to do, which for me, it's new. It's kind of a new venture.
Yeah. And podcasting can go so many different ways, and it could be so many different things as well. But what's true about it is that there's content, and it needs to be dispersed to the masses. And Kim, I'm going to you with the big question. This is the big one here. I feel, a lot of audiences listen to a podcast or subscribe because they saw it on social media, right? They saw a reel on social media, or they saw somebody posts something about a segment. And so, Kim, I want you to talk about how important social media and the growth of a podcast is, from reels that you see now, because it's not just audio anymore. Holly, you mentioned it, and Danny, you mentioned as well that, the promotion of it is huge. So how important is social media and podcasting, and can you live without it?
I cannot live without it. I don't think anybody could live without social media right now. It's the main tool. And for me, initially, I was not using every social media platform. And I feel like that worked against me. I was just using Instagram. I was using YouTube. Now I use TikTok. I use Instagram. I use Facebook. I promote my ads, so more people can see it. Social media is very important, and I downplayed social media for a long time because I'm a very private person. But I had to tell myself I'm doing a podcast. I want more people to listen, so I have to put myself out there more. And once I started to put myself out there more, and I paid for those ads, and I did the marketing, I started to see results. So I would say social media is very important, especially using social media, not just one particular app, but them all. So yeah.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Kim. You need to be able to utilize that to your advantage, especially in 2025 when everybody is literally on their phone swiping almost all day, right?
Yes.
Kim, another question for you about this, reels. Why is that a big deal when doing content creation, right? You got your whole podcast, you've recorded a 60-minute podcast, and then you start to break down your segments in reels, right? Why is that important? Why do we see that a lot? TikTok, Instagram, Facebook reels. You know what I'm talking about. Why is that important?
I feel like reels are important now because when you think about Instagram and TikTok, they push like reels more than they push actual post, like versus like one single shot of a photo or two photos. It's like you're painting the picture for people. You're getting more in that 30 to 60-second reel versus that one post of one picture. So it's like it's giving you more time to tell yourself. And I feel like it's very important for us as podcasters because I can post a clip. I can gather the best, funniest clips I got from my podcast, and I can paint the picture within those 30 to 60 seconds versus them having to go to my podcast to check it out. Like I'm going to paint the picture for you so you want to check it out. So I feel like it's more so of a platform for you to like advertise yourself and to let people know that this is what you get to see,
Yeah, a preview of what you're about to hear, and then you get a visual, right? You get the visual of what people look
Right.
like, which is something that people you never used to get before. So you're absolutely right, Kim. Danny, I'm going to go to you on this in the same vein. How do you choose when you're looking at reels and cutting segments? How do you choose what to put on reels? And how do you cut it? What do you use to cut certain reels in your experience?
Just making sure, Tony, you mentioned my name, right?
Yes, yeah, Danny, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm actually glad that you came to me with this question. I think what I found fascinating in doing a lot of research was just seeing how there's a lot of evidence that you could have more engagement and success with your social media strategy than you can with your actual podcast at times, depending on how hard to push. On that note, it was really important for me to do a little bit of research on what can I do to help me, because if we're spending so much time with the entire macro content itself, how are we going to put out this micro content at scale, right? So there's a particular app that I've been using now for since I began it. It's called Opus Clip, and it's pretty innovative if you ask me. Essentially what is allowing me to do is allow me to upload my content, and from that content it'll, based on a few keywords, create a bunch of micro clips in the form of reels that it suggests would do very well based on the keywords, based on what kind of audiences I'm targeting, and on any given post or video or of my podcast, it's producing upwards of 20 to 30 clips. To that, I would say there's a lot of help of AI that's making that happen. I I gotta tell you guys, I've been seeing a lot of folks rely on AI to get them to that next level or to get them to that next step. But I do think that it's within the whole process that a lot of us has been discussing up until this point to really understand what's important. And in terms of using these type of softwares, it's knowing that it's not like it's going to solve all your issues. It's going to help out a lot, 100%. It's providing me somewhat of a canvas. Is not so blank. It's telling me, hey, like we think that this is gonna test well, and then within that is I have to go in there, add to it, and it's been pretty great. It's been pretty great. It's quite the tool, and it's been that one thing that I think is really empowering me and the podcast right now to be able to get yourself out there. And like how Kim has said, it's not just one platform, it's multiple. So you have to take that into consideration. And then again, it's this idea that you're trying to put together this great product in the form of a podcast, video, audio. For some of us, it might be print as well, like digital, like blog forms. And then you got to worry about the social strategy. So it's been pretty cool to adopt that. And I got to say, like, that's been the one thing where I was like, well, if this is around now, because it definitely wasn't around a few years ago, let's use this thing to our advantage.
Yeah. What was that app called again that you use?
It's called Opus Clip. OPUS Clip.
Got you. For those of you that are listening and watching, definitely check that out. I see some of the comments here that we're going to get to in a second. That's pretty awesome. And just a reminder to our audience, in about 14 minutes, we are going to go to our Q&A session to where our guests will be answering any questions that you put down in the comment section. So please put those questions in there. I see a couple already in there. We're going to get to in a bit, but continue to comment, continue to engage as we continue to learn about podcasting and different ways to get better at it, and what content to even provide as you do it. Chris, I'm going to go to you, man. What platform do you get more engagement from when you post? What do you see?
I use Instagram a lot. I use Instagram, YouTube. I've just started using Twitch. I did have Facebook, but I had to restart the account, so I'm debating if I want to put it back over there. But a lot of the engagement comes from Instagram, and Kim is correct. Using Reels helps a lot. And Danny's correct too, because I've used Opus Clip a few times, and it does help. It can be a slippery slope or a double-edged sword, however you look at it. And it's what you put into it that you're going to get out of it. It'll hit certain target audiences, and and then there's the algorithm likes to change a lot. So you have to know it takes some playing with for a minute in order for you to really hit that mark. And just because it doesn't happen right away, don't sweat it. Try it again. Try it a different time, because they play with times. They play best days when it happens. It's a workaround. It's a learning curve, but it's worth it. It ends up being worth it, because I've seen several interviews, and I've even said it myself. You never know who's watching. Mm-hmm. You never know who's watching. When it hits that non-follower count, you never know who's in that non-follower count that might be able to push your platform to the next level, or know someone that knows they can get you to that next level. You never know. So using those platforms are very much necessary, and I would never shy away from them in terms of just like, oh, that's stupid, I don't think I want to use it. Like, it depends on how you use that platform.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy, Chris, is that, and we've been told this in the past before, if it's like a closed mouth don't get fed. Well, when it comes to content creation, if you don't post, you're not going to get any type of engagement or as we say in this sphere, traction, right?
Yeah.
And so most definitely post, but that, some platforms work for others, some don't. But you're absolutely right about the algorithm. It's got to catch you at some point. But if you don't post, you're not going to catch anything.
Exactly. Right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
There you go. We could have like 50 memes about this, 50 quotes. Holly, I want to go over to you here real quick. Content can be a little bit, I guess, frustrating to put together, right? And by the way, I'm so sorry, Chris. Are you able to mute yours real quick to see if I'm getting a double? I don't know if it was you or not. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Holly, my question to you was in regards to content, right? There's so much content. You have 45 minutes to 30, maybe an hour of content. So do you pre-make your content on social media? Do you have things like pre-made already to post and a scheduled time? What's your process? What do you find easier for yourself?
Teasers for sure. Another thing we like to do are polls to kind of figure out, like I said before, kind of where our audience is, where their curiosity lays. But yeah, content, when it comes to content, Danny and Chris, like Opus Clip is awesome. It's awesome, especially when you have a lot of video to rip through. There's a lot of stuff out there. I like to do, like, there's something called the content pillars that a lot of content creators are starting to use, where it's just one, it's just how to categorize certain content, like behind the scenes, moments before the podcast, or maybe what you didn't see during the podcast, or what you didn't hear, what we didn't publish. What do you think we should do next week? What was your favorite? But right now, the content pillar thing is a good way to structure and a good way to kind of keep yourself organized and kind of intact, where you would do a certain content pillar on Thursday, another content pillar on Wednesday, and then check your analytics and see what takes off, what works. And you just really got to adjust from there. But it's just finding your flow. But I don't want to scare anybody with the content pillars things, because it's new, it's fun. It is, and it really kind of helps when it comes to, because the one thing we mentioned, consistency, structure, and like you said, Tony, the content, you could feel like okay, what part of this gigantic process do I want to slap on Monday? So it's something to kind of put everybody, like, it's when it comes to being more task oriented, it's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all, I'm sure, have gone through a process of, seeing your content made, right? You've done the pod, and then have that moment of like, all right, now how are we going to get this out there, on social media and break it down? It can become overwhelming, but being able to develop a process, like you mentioned, it can be very helpful, from putting up stories to putting up polls to whatever that looks like for you. And if you find a routine, you will be able to get into that routine, like anything in life, honestly, and you'll be able to get the content out there. Kim, I'm going to go to you for this next question. We've talked about social media, as we've talked about content creation, podcasting, equipment, everything, that to get that quick start or to get going. Have you ever found yourself in a position to maybe you've changed your podcast, maybe you've changed what it's about, or you've changed topics for the content in general? Have you ever found yourself maybe shifting gears slightly from any of those avenues?
I would have to say it depends, because my podcast is about music. So I talk about when I first heard different songs. So initially, when I first started, I would say when I first heard like different R&B songs, hip hop songs. So, and then I started to do more gospel songs. So I would say it's more so like of a genre type thing, versus like me changing the topic, because it's always going to be about music for me. But now I'm not afraid to step into like different genres of music.
And that's awesome. I mean, and music is colorful, right? I mean, there's so many different ways you can go when it comes to talking about music. Do your guests vary, right? Do your guests bring a different element when we talk about the music itself?
Yeah, I know, Holly, you spoke on like try not to like record a podcast for you, but I feel like that's what started my podcast. I was like, I have these ideas. I love music. I know everybody loves music, and I feel like music connects us as people. And I was like, you know what? I want to talk about music. And at first I was like, I should keep it for myself. I didn't care if one person listened. I just needed to get my thoughts out. But now it's like I'm making a podcast and I want people to relate to it. So I'm going to talk about different genres of music. So initially I started my podcast for me, just as an outlet to get my thoughts out about my favorite songs. But now it's like I'm touching people because music connects us all. So yeah. I don't know if I answered the question. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, and yeah, you're fine. And questions semi confusing. I'm sorry. Sometimes I ask horrible questions. Okay, no worries. But and when it comes to just shifting gears, right? When it comes to maybe you're doing a podcast of some topic or of some genre, and sometimes you shift into something different than what your podcast is about. And the question laid upon that: do you sometimes shift around? But when you have something that you like to talk about and people are engaging with you, sometimes you don't have to do that. And so there's always two ways to the story when it comes to that specifically. And that's awesome. That's awesome that you do that. I'm gonna have to tap in because I'm a music head myself. So that's awesome, Kim. Danny, I'm gonna go to you next year. With podcasting in itself, man. Everyone has a podcast, it feels, right? Everyone wants to talk about something out there. And I would ask you, when you have something that you want to talk about, right? Do you believe doing a podcast by yourself is better than doing it with a team? What have you seen in your experience?
Okay, so just to understand the question, would the question is doing a podcast on my own versus doing it with a team or doing it with like a guest?
Yeah, what's that look like for you? Would you prefer to have a co-host or doing by yourself? How does that look for you?
Oh, okay. It's funny because I had one of the first guests that I had on, like a great friend of mine. She's actually has a little skin in the game here on the Be On Air. She was an instructor. She was an alumni as well. And she saw the product, or she saw like what I was creating. And she's like, I want in. And I looked at her and I was like, I know that was all the passion. That was all passion, like throwing that one out there, like, let's do this, D. And I said to her, you are the face of XM, the Latina, like aspect of it. Like they have a station here in Miami for LatAm. And I was like, well, what time are you going to do this with me? And I think that's like one of the biggest things. I think it was Holly that had mentioned it. It's trying to find the time within this, with everything that we got going on. And I think at some point for many, it does become your priority. In the meantime, you're trying to figure out how do we squeeze this in while we're managing all these other things that we got going on. So I can't imagine trying to add too many pieces to the puzzle right now. I'm looking forward to the opportunity maybe one day, but at the moment, I like being in complete control and saying like, this is working around my schedule. At most, I really try to be flexible with the guests because I think that like they're obviously a big part of this too. So I try to like work with them and try to get things on the calendar. If I have to add more to that, I think that it would complicate things some. So at the moment, I would say running a podcast, me, the host, maybe I'm saying that just based off of the experiences that I've had. So there's a lot of confidence in being able to manage this entirely. But yeah, I can't fathom working alongside others that also have the moving parts and how difficult it could be to get everybody to sit down in one room.
Yeah, and it's a question I asked because back when you did internet radio or were on the radio, you usually probably have a team with you, and some people don't work well with a team, right? And so podcasting is almost like singular. It feels like it's just me and I'm gonna talk with my guest, or it's just me and I'm just gonna talk. So there's different facets to it, but it's a great couple points that you made there, Danny, in regard to that in itself. We're gonna get to our Q&A session here in about 3 minutes or so. I'm gonna ask you all one question. It's gonna be the same question, and you just gotta let us know. So we'll start with Kim on this one. Kim, what is one thing every new podcaster should stop worrying about?
Stop worrying about if people are listening. Just put out the content, because sometimes the idea sounds good to you, and that's all it takes. All you need is yourself to validate your thoughts, and you never know what people connect with. So if it sounds good to you, somebody out there is going to feel it. So put it out. Don't worry about the listeners. Don't look at the numbers and, oh, nobody's listening, so I'm going to stop. keep going. I say keep going.
Wow, I'm ready. That was actually amazing, Kim. Thank you so much. I'm gonna take that one. Holly, go ahead. Tell us what they should stop worrying about.
Get rid of your inner perfectionist. I mean, that alone, you hear any podcast and you hear yourself or you hear your ums and you all of a sudden you're like, you're super attuned to all that stuff. So get rid of it.
Like that. Like that. Awesome. Chris, what about you?
I have to confer. I have to piggyback on Holly and Kim's. That's exactly why I do my show live. You cannot worry about who's watching. You cannot worry about who's listening. And if you feel like you can do it live, I kind of patterned my show after Saturday Night Live. And some of the best moments is when they're breaking. It breaks the ice, it clears the air, and people are more relaxed. And it comes off. It's more natural.
Except when Jimmy Fallon's breaking all the time. Except when Jimmy Fallon breaks. We're tired of that. That's good stuff, though, Chris. I like that. Danny, what about you, man? New podcast. What do they got to stop worrying about?
All right, so it's to not say what everybody else said because I think they all make great points. I think stop worrying about thinking that you need the top tier equipment. Don't let that camera or that studio setup, oh, I gotta have that or it has to look like this. I think there's a lot of beauty in starting from somewhere, being able to showcase like, wow, that's what that looked like on EP1 versus wherever you may be at down the road, where you're able to look back at that and say, look at how far we've came. And I think that holds a lot of people back. So I would say, don't worry about it. There's a lot of great content coming out of people just recording on their phones or recording on these mics on the go. And you don't need expensive equipment to get started at all.
I'm about to make another podcast, y'all. Thank you so much for the inspiration. Appreciate it. We could end the show now. That's great stuff, guys. I really do. That's really good stuff. I really hope our audience is tapped in and listening to that. So that's awesome. We do have our Q&A session coming up now, and we are going to take some questions from the chat. We're going to put it up on the screen here, and we're going to ask the panel some questions. So I know Linda has the board and is ready to put them up. Our first question is from House of Bonnets. Says, any specific tips for scheduling / planning your podcast / content schedule? If anybody wants to take that one. Kim?
Okay, so for me, I usually try to post on Thursdays, like every Thursday. But the inspiration behind my podcast, which was my father, and he passed away last month. So I've been off schedule for a long time. I was contemplating, like, should I even keep going with my podcast? Because music was introduced to me by my dad. And now that he's gone, I feel guilty for still enjoying music. It's weird, but I know that he would want me to keep going. I try to post on Thursdays, but if I'm doing a gospel song, I try to release the podcast on a Sunday so people can listen to it and have that Sunday feel. But for the most part, Thursdays. I try to release my podcast on Thursdays.
Awesome. I'm sorry for your loss, Kim. Definitely is awesome to hear that you're being inspired by that and you're pushing content out there. So yeah, that's good right there. Thank you for the question, House of Bonnets. Our next question here popped up is from B. Rose. She writes, how do you make sure you are engaging your audience / growing your audience, but also being authentic to the content you are passionate about? Anybody want to take that one?
I could take that one. Like I said, I do the show live, and the people that are watching live, I allow them to chime in. I show like the comment is being shown here. I show their comment. Sometimes they have a different viewpoint of something, and I'll show that. And so it shows that not only are we talking about whatever the topic is, but it's showing that the audience is being involved in that same content, so they feel like they're there. I've been told several times that the show and we're on twice a week. We're on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I've been told that the 2 hours that we're on, that's time away from the reality of it, stuff that's going on in their life. It allows them to just break down and just have fun, laugh, be engaged, and just talk about whatever, from film, television show, cartoon, comic book, whatever. and they feel involved. So I think just for at least in our sake, sometimes live is the best way. You know, it's best to kind of make sure you're addressing that audience when they have a comment. It's best to sometimes that comment creates another conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. We did have a not a question, more of a comment from Chit Chat with Knack, former student. Shout out to you. Not a question, a recommendation. Spreaker is a great app to use to post your podcast, and the app distributes your show to a few platforms like iHeartRadio. A student at the downtown campus in the Greta here. Yeah, so she's a alumni and she's doing audio emphasis as well. Have any of you used Spreaker before at all on this panel?
I've used it before, yes.
I like the RSS feed, which it has all inclusive YouTube, iHeart, Apple, Spotify, and you will get your first podcast free. I believe it to host off of an RSS feed, which is a real simple syndication. So you're syndicated. I think it's $5 a month, and even cheaper for students. I want to say it's up to $3 a month. But you update that RSS feed and everything is updated. And that includes MP3 and MP4.
Very nice. Yeah, definitely different forms of way to distribute your content out there are available. So it's good to know. Let's continue on with our questions here. There was a question popped up. I'm trying to scroll up to see if I saw it. King Kanye, I hope I'm saying this right. Kanyika Siami does have a question on here. She's this person writes, "What do you all ultimately want to do with the platforms that you are building? What role do you want podcasts to play in the industry?"
I can answer. This is my cousin. This is who I started K Brown University with, Nika.
Okay.
Hi, Kanika. Thank you for joining us.
Did I say her name right?
Kanika. Yeah, it's Kanika.
Kanika. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So I would say, what do I want to do with the platform that I'm building? I just love to connect with people and to listen to the way that they talk about music, because when I hear people talk about music, it lights like the fire inside of me, because like I said, it connects us all. That connects everybody together. You don't even have to speak the same language, but if you hear a song and your soul, it feels right to you, it's like it feels right to you. I want to make people feel, I want to make people think, and just to connect, just to keep that human vibe going. I know we have a lot of AI and everything taken over. I just want to keep the connection going with humans. And I feel like music is a big connection amongst us all. So yeah.
I like it without a doubt. I think facts were spoken. So you got. I hope that resonated with Kanyika there. Andy Batts writes, "Hey Tony, this will be my first time, and I want to do my podcast as an actor. Danny is one of my instructors. When's a great time to start a podcast? Danny, you want to take this? This is your student."
Yeah, shout out to Andy. Thank you for hanging out with us today. When's a great time to start a podcast? I'd say right now, right now, like literally, like soak in. I'm hoping you're taking down some notes and like get this ball rolling for you. I'd say one of the first things you want to take into consideration is just having an understanding of what it is that you want to create. Yeah, I think he mentions there as an actor, right? Okay, so what would that typical audience, what would that demo be interested in, and kind of start doing research on that stuff. I think that that's one of the first things that you find in any avenue within the media industry is one of the first tips. Who is this for? Who are you serving? What is that you want to do for them? It is something about you. It could be something that you're overly passionate about. Fantastic. That's going to make you that much better at producing this thing. But how are you going to serve them? I think once you start to kind of jot down and have a good solid idea as to what value you could be bringing to the table, that's when it becomes easier for you to pump this thing out. And then it's a mixture of being passionate about the topic that you've chosen while understanding, hey, like, this is probably for a specific crowd or a specific audience, but I'm going to make sure that I'm doing my homework for them. I'm overly passionate about acting. I'm speaking like for Andy in this case. If that's the case, what is it that you could be doing to help others out that might be interested in acting, or maybe when they go through rough patches in acting, or maybe when they're at the highest peak, and how to, like, stay humble, whatever the case may be. That sounds like it could be a potential episode for each one of those potential topics. And I think that's when it's beautiful. Knowing that you're passionate about something, whether it's sports, whether it's music, and then saying, okay, how am I going to serve my audience? And you figure that out. And I think you have all the confidence in the world to make that happen.
Yeah. Good stuff. That's good stuff, man. Thanks for tuning in, Andy. Yun Snoopy writes, how can I become more focused instead of diving in distractions? Anybody want that one?
I think I can try. It happens. You can get distracted. It's very, very easy to fall down that rabbit hole. But what I find is that when you have a focus on whatever the topic is you want to talk about, never worry about where that conversation, I don't even call them interviews, wherever that conversation is going to have a destination. All you need to do is worry about just starting it up. Whatever that topic is, whatever that question is, whatever that is, as long as you focus on that, especially because I work with a team. It's like 9 of us. So at any given time, you'll see 5 of us, and things bounce off of each other, and we get along just fine. So whether you're starting by yourself, or can be a conversation with yourself, or if it's a conversation with a guest or your co-host, you won't be distracted as long as you can keep it in line with what it is you're talking about. You don't want to veer too far from the subject matter or whatever that conversation is. So it does happen. I wouldn't hang up on about it. Hang yourself up about it. Just know that you're falling in that pit. Just kind of steer yourself back out. And sometimes it takes a co-host or a team of people to say, hey, bring it back, to circle back, and there's ways to do it, or to circle back to what you were just saying, that type of stuff. So it can happen. Don't get too hung up on it. It does happen. It happens we're creatives. This stuff happens all the time.
Yeah. A lot of stuff happens when you create stuff. It's good stuff, Chris. Jose Alicea writes, how far ahead of time do you plan for an episode?
That one depends. It depends on the style of your podcast, but there's a lot you could do there. I like to prep for at least an hour before, especially if it's a live podcast. I like to have all my ducks in a row. But you could go to Google Trends and see what's happening, if you have what's hot and what's going on, which is really going to help your SEO and explode your episode for sure. But when it comes to time and prep and people and limiting your distractions, you definitely want to just kind of like coast through the week, take what works, take what doesn't work, and just let the universe inspire you.
Holly, you need some music behind you while you're talking sometimes. It's just something like his cell is beautiful. That was awesome. All right. I think we have time for 2 more questions here. LaCar Mayweather writes, which podcast would you all say are advancing the industry in the right direction, and which ones are not doing their best job? It's a pretty loaded question there. Anybody want it?
I can honestly say there are several episodes of Shannon Sharp's show that he's had several guests that have been very interesting. Whether it's not him asking questions, but the fact that they're having these conversations, and those conversations steer into other realms, and they talk about things that aren't normally seen by other people. I think that's a good way to start. It really is a good way to one of the few shows that I listen to or watch, whether it's on YouTube, that have very good insight. Another one is Pearlmania 5000 or 500. I'm sorry, Pearlmania 500. It's called Too Many Tabs. That's another one that I find. He's from Philly, and he talks about a lot of stuff, whether it's in politics, and he does like a breakdown. Him and his wife do like a breakdown why certain things happened in whether it's in politics, whether it's in history, which is why it's called Too Many Tabs, because they do a major deep dive on whatever that subject matter is. So I think that's something that we need more of. And I had this conversation with my team. It's like we kind of look at ourselves as the next stage of journalism, and not the hot button issue, not the next big thing that's on whatever platform, but really telling the true story behind whatever it is you're talking about, and give these, because not too many people will look it up, even though the internet is, Google is free, like just looking ahead and finding the right truths to tell, and why certain things are happening, and why this thing means this, or why this happens, or and it helps. It does really help. They need those new quote unquote mouthpieces.
There you go. Danny, were you going to say something? I want to give you.
No. I'm good.
Okay, cool. All right, we have time for one more question, and we're going to wrap up here. And it's from T-Lo Television. My name spelled with 2 E's. I like that. T-Lo Television. We have the question: is anyone marketing any products from their podcast? Any tips about that?
There's so much you can do there. Sorry, Danny, rock, paper, scissors.
No.
I think you should go. Go ahead. You go first.
I actually don't have a lot. I don't have a lot, so feel free to jump in as soon as I wrap it up. Because all I was gonna say, I think that it's on the list. Like seeing the possibilities of diving deeper into this. What I mean by that is it starts off with this product known as a podcast, right? And there's so many different ways of going about it. We're hearing people doing it live. We're hearing things being done pre-recorded, and that's I think first and foremost that product. But from there, there's so many opportunities to go into things like merch and other products related to what the podcast is about. And overall, I just think that this is what you're building with this product as a brand. Potentially, the more and more you dive deeper into what it is that your audience is curious about, and you're serving them that way, you start to be able to, Kim talks about music. Okay, Kim at some point could collab with some kind of product that helps producers out, or there's some software that helps people make music and things of that nature. It's just an open door that really allows you to dive deeper into the business aspect of things. So I mean, the possibilities are endless, and I think that's more or less where Holly was starting off with.
Yeah, there's something called direct marketing, and what that is what you use directly, what you wear, what you eat, what you put in your hair, look in your fridge, and do it now. I have a brand of olives that I have. If I run out, they're on the grocery list, or there's a little panic. Long story there. But if you created an olive commercial, and then now you have social media where you can tag them, that could be your chance. I also have a podcast. They may reach out to you. So there's also something called Gully, which is a big influencer thing where you can start just by saying you're a content creator or a podcaster, and they have a bunch of jobs that you could also link to your podcast. A lot of opportunity out there today.
Yeah, I like what you said. You gotta take your stuff and you gotta make the
Direct marketing.
Direct marketing, baby. Follow the parlay, everybody. No, that's awesome, guys. That's why I ran off the screen. I was like, let me support Holly's message here. But really, guys, and this is for the audience out there. Listen, don't be afraid. Go do it. If you have an inspiration, if you have a story, you should be going out there and you should put it out in the realm of social media and in this media field. It is very important. You never know what can happen. Opportunities can arise. You have to believe in yourself. And our 4 panelists here, I've said it all to you with great advice, great counsel. It was an honor and pleasure to be able to talk to all of you. You guys are all professionals, been in the industry for a while. And it was great talking to you all. Definitely our audience should be following them. I don't know if we can get their stuff on the screen or if they want to say it, but this definitely was a great time, great hour with you guys. And again, I appreciate you guys coming on the forum with us.
Yeah, I mean, for all of you, before we hop off, if you want to go into the chat for those that are here, and of course this will live on. So the best way to connect with you can type it right in the chat. Hi, Jose. It's so good to have all of you. This was really an excellent conversation, a lot of nuggets. I love that the conversation really focused around if you continue to wait, you're never going to get where you want to be. So, right, what you do tomorrow is only going to get better the day after that and the day after that. So practice equals success. You all have a story to tell. And, for you, Kim, listening to you talk about your dad, you better keep going and carry your dad's light in you, because that's what shines to the people that listen, right? And to all of you, Chris, it's such a pleasure to hear your voice. Chris has a great voice, doesn't he? He really is so captivated with his Comic-Con and all the things he's doing. So thank you, one and all, for joining us. And I hope that our guests tune back in and find these hosts and their podcasts. And I wish everybody the best of luck. Get started. That's the best advice of all. Get started, have a purpose, and drive that purpose home. And join us again in 2 weeks. And if there's something you'd like to talk about, please put that in the chat. It's been a pleasure. Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you.
My guests, if you'll stick around, that would be awesome.